Live from Santa Barbara, welcome to Compassionate Connection. I am your hostess, Gigi Amor. The purpose of our show is to share with you how to communicate effectively within ourselves and with others by choosing to learn the language of compassion, the language from the heart, the language of peace. You can therefore transform your life and enrich your life and enjoy a more wonderful world. Now tonight, with that being said, we're going to explore another avenue of how to have a more effective, wonderful life. We have back with us our very special guest, Susan Allan. Thank you for being with us again tonight, Susan.
I'm always thrilled. Anytime.
We are too. This is going to be so highly informative. Now I'm going to tell the viewers a bit about Susan. Susan Allan is the founder of the Marriage Forum and America's leading marriage and divorce coach. Susan is also the author of 3 books, including The Merry-Go-Round, and she is also a certified mediator and is certified in Herman brain dominance used by 90% of the Fortune companies. Her 6-part conversation allows us to create peaceful and cooperative conversations so that all relationships can be peaceful and cooperative. Susan has been seen on Fox News and on hundreds of television and radio shows, demonstrating the results that we can create when we transform the way we think, listen, speak, and act, and focus on solutions instead of on problems. Susan also offers a complimentary 1-hour private telephone session so that everyone can transform their business, their relationships, and their life. What a gift that is. Oh boy, Susan, I know tonight I'm so thrilled you're going to share with us on marriage or divorce and how to go about making that choice. So for our viewers, I'd just like to say that tonight's show is the beginning of a 3-part series with Susan Allan highlighting a new discovery that she made. This series is called Marriage or Divorce and How to Choose. And tonight we are covering part 1, and we will be examining the reasons why some people choose to stay in a marriage or committed relationship and why others choose to separate or divorce. And so the basis is Susan's 3 stages of decision. I know you're going to enjoy this. I certainly am. Oh, and now, Susan, boy, do I have a lot of questions for you tonight.
Thank you. I am just thrilled. This is just great. Thank you so much, Gigi.
Oh, this is going to be great for our viewers too. Marriage or divorce, how to choose. Okay, now we're going to get into how determining yes or no. Now, Susan, I'm curious, could you just please share with us what are the 3 stages of decision?
And they're up on the screen. Thank you so much, Fred. I so appreciate it. So, do you feel unconditional love for your partner? Or are you looking for them to change? Or vice versa? Do you experience the joy of monogamy? Is it joyous for you? Is it just a natural state for you? Or struggle? Do you co-create your decisions, your solutions, whatever they may be? Or is one of you coercing, pushing, forcing the other? Those are the 3 linchpins for part 1. And when you're able to really see that you can be in unconditional love, you can be in joyous monogamy, you can be in co-creation. I'm not saying you should be. I'm saying you can be with someone. And if you're there, then of course, this is a joyous marriage. This is a miraculous marriage. This is the marriage that all your friends envy. If you can't, we have to decide, is it that you can't with him or with her, or that you can't? And that's part of what we're going to discuss today.
Oh, I love this. Boy, this is exciting, Susan. Okay, now to move forward, can you give us an example of a couple, let's say, who were confused about whether they could learn to love one another unconditionally or whether they really needed to split up?
My favorite story about this is a man who called me because he thought he wanted to reconcile, which I'm really famous for. So he actually didn't think he had the question, should I stay married, should I divorce? But in fact, it turned out that was the real question. Because I taught him how to reconcile. He was able to have lunch with his wife, from whom he was separated. He was able to make a dinner date with her. He had a lovely lunch and a lovely dinner. But he called me the next morning and he said, I've realized I don't want to be in a relationship with a woman who found monogamy impossible in the past. Now, that doesn't mean that she couldn't be monogamous for the rest of her life. Maybe she can. But he said, I don't even want that to be a consideration. So what he realized is that he didn't feel unconditional love for his wife. He didn't love her so much that he wanted to go through that whole process. He had a huge epiphany at dinner. And that was the end of that. They had a very peaceful divorce. And he's now married to a woman who is just a very different kind of woman.
Oh, I love that. He really, really turned it around.
Yeah, he got very clear about what his needs are. Not about judging her, not about criticizing her, but just he got very clear about his needs, and that was his needs, and therefore she wasn't the woman for him.
Oh, boy. Well, he's happy now.
Very happy, yes, with his two new children,
Oh.
his new wife.
Okay, well, now I'm curious, isn't it really common that people expect, let's say, their partners to change because they don't want to go through the effort of learning to love their partners unconditionally?
Yes. The most common phone calls I get or the emails I get are, should I marry or should I divorce? And then once we've gotten that topic on the table is, can you fix him? Not as many can you fix her, but lots and lots and lots and lots of can you fix him all the time, yeah. Because if we don't understand the real dynamic in an intimate relationship, then we think that somebody has to change instead of one person mastering communication skills, motivation skills, really learning how to love, really learning how to nurture, really learning how to nourish the relationship, and through that, an entirely new relationship is born.
Oh, I love that. They can really turn it around. I love that. Thank you, Susan.
If at least one person is committed to doing it.
So there's hope.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, there's always hope.
Thank you, Susan. I know that you say that every divorce is a hero's journey, and I'm curious, is that also a way to describe a long-term marriage?
Yes, I was with my friend Debbie, who did my hair today, and she does a spectacular job. And she's had a very long-term marriage. And it was really thrilling to talk with her about it because she's got a great marriage. Her husband loves her, she loves her husband, they have great children. It's just wonderful. And you know what? It is so rare. What is it? Not the 48% of the population who are in long-term marriages, because we know a lot of them don't talk to each other. Not the small percentage of people who are in long-term marriages and talk to each other, but have been living in separate wings of the house or separate bedrooms or whatever for a long time. No, I mean people who really have a marriage, who have a wonderful marriage. So we were talking about that today, about the real heroic journey of being married, which means that you bring yourself to peace when you feel triggered. You don't just say what's on your mind all the time. you really consider the needs of the listener. And you really have compassion, you know? And people can do it with their best friend, but they don't usually do it with their spouse. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But it's possible to have that richness in your relationship.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of this.
Absolutely. It's not only possible, but why do you want to be in a committed relationship otherwise? That's the question to ask. What's in it for you otherwise? I mean, like, not much.
Thank you, Susan. I could say a lot more about it, but
Well, maybe you get the children, but, you know, then you're,
okay, now let's explore what is the strategy that we can use if we are really committed to a partner who continuously wants us to change. Can we really motivate them to unconditional love?
Unconditional love is an evolutionary development for humans. It's the ability of having a completely open heart, of truly being present with yourself and with others. It requires a different kind of a brain, if you will. So, yeah, you can work with someone or motivate them to work with me, and they can evolve to be the most magnificent version of whoever they are. But if you're starting out with someone who's like Donald Trump, you're not going to get Oprah. And Oprah is a very smart, very successful, you know, kick-ass kind of woman. She wouldn't have a network otherwise, I'm sure. But she's not Donald Trump, you know. She's very compassionate, very caring, and has a very developed right brain as well. So, you know, be clear about what you're looking for. So if you're looking for unconditional love, look for that. If you're looking for someone who's a tycoon, look for that. The combination plate is very rare.
Oh boy. And then you can accept it and from there ignite more happiness.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Susan. More clarity here.
Yes.
Now, can people really train themselves to love unconditionally, or must it come naturally? And what if you're looking for a new partner who is capable of unconditional love? I'm curious, what would you look for then?
Well, if you're looking for somebody who has the highest probability of unconditional love, then Fred, if you would show us the Herman brain dominance map for a minute, then you look for somebody who's very lower right brain, thank you, which is the red quadrant. You look for somebody who is really has an open heart, a generous heart, who's very soulful, who's very kind, who's very compassionate, and who was also upper right-brained enough that they can see the world from your perspective and their own perspective. You know, that it's not, they're not dogmatic, which is what the upper left brain is all about. And they're not going to require it, you know, your my way or the highway kind of thinking. So for someone who's very unconditionally loving, then you need somebody who's very, very lower right brain and an evolved lower right brain. I don't mean somebody who screams and yells and kicks their feet and is, you know, angry and sad and scared. That's the unevolved emotional brain. So it's a little complicated.
Thank you, Susan. Now, I'm curious, is there a dark downside to unconditional love?
Yes, absolutely. Obsession and stalking. You know, if someone thinks you're so perfect and you're so wonderful, even though you're living your happily married life, you know, and you don't even know they exist, right? Which happens to a lot of celebrities. Yeah, that's definitely a dark, twisted version of unconditional love. Or I'm sure, you know, many of you have had the experience that, you know, I certainly have had, and you probably had it a million times. You know, the person is just not interesting for you. The person is not the person you're looking for. You don't want to make your life with this person, and you've said thank you, no, 3 ways, 6 ways, 12 ways, a dozen ways, whatever it is, and now you just want to kick them to the curb. That is, again, that's the dark downside of unconditional love, because they may have this obsession with you, but in fact they're not really in a relationship with you. So there's a big distinction between someone who loves you unconditionally, who knows you and is in your life, and someone who may be sitting home reading People and sees someone and, you know, go out on a tear. It's a very different thing.
Thank you. That's very clear. So, well, let's now explore stage 2, joyous monogamy or struggle. Oh boy, now Susan created this.
This is the fun one.
Yeah, here we go with this.
We love talking about this, Gigi and I. Okay.
Okay, I know that some people really do find monogamy easy, and for others it's very challenging. And so does that mean that they're with the wrong partner?
You know, it's a little more complicated than that. You knew people who were dating in high school, and then they got married, and then they stayed married for a very, very long time, or even are still married today, right? Mm-hmm. Childhood sweethearts. You know, and for them, they just knew they were right for each other. You know, and it's just a wonderful, happy story, right?
I love the story.
Yeah, just a sweet, sweet story. And, you know, then you know people who had the opposite story. It was the opposite. Or maybe tragically, the tragedy is when it's one who sees it that way and the other who doesn't. That's the tragedy. So for some people, it's really easy for them. They fall in love. This may not be the most beautiful. This may not be the smartest. This may not be the greatest physique. This may not be the greatest career. But she loves him, and she loves him just the way he is, and vice versa. And my mother used to say they have a very easy life. You know, if they're not that beautiful and they're not that successful, they have an easier life because they don't have 3,000 people hitting on them at parties and trying to get them to leave their current partner to be with them. You know, the more money and power a man has, and nowadays a woman as well, and the more beauty a woman has, and nowadays a man as well, the more opportunities they have because people are going to say, hi, hello, can I give you my phone number? Or here's my phone number. So it's not so much the question of can someone turn into a monogamous person? Yes, everybody can. But they turn into a monogamous person because this partner meets enough of their needs that they don't want to mess it up. Because I was always a terrible flirt. I mean, I loved flirting. I was awful. But, you know, when I met one of two different men that I really adored in my life, it was as if all the other men kind of slid off the planet. Because I was so fascinated by these two different guys at different times, obviously. And I just didn't want to mess it up. So that's one way that it can happen for people. You know, the woman, the man may not be everything you've ever dreamed of, but if 8 of your top 10 needs are met, you may have the intelligence to say, I don't want to blow it. And that's when, like, overnight, someone suddenly becomes monogamous.
Thank you, Susan. That's very clear and very helpful. Now, when a spouse discovers that there's really been cheating, is it enough to force your partner to break, let's say, up the affair and promise to be monogamous?
Well, you know, they can promise all they want, right? Raise your hand if you've had people promise things.
Oh,
Come
yes,
on.
okay.
Two hands up. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, when somebody promises something, they mean it at the time. My favorite story about this, and I don't know if you were there, but it was in our friend's conference room when I was doing a workshop years ago. And this woman was there, but the man that she was dating wasn't there. So she was very honest, and she said, I'm very, very upset. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. We'll never forget this, will we? She was so upset because this guy told her that he wasn't going to make a commitment to be monogamous with her because he didn't know her well enough. And in fact, he was a client of mine, so I said, blame me, and he did. My coach won't let me, remember? My coach won't let me. And she was so incensed. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and I went at it in a way that was very different from what you guys may expect. I said to her, after I gave her lots of empathy, I can just imagine how furious you were because it didn't meet your needs for respect. And I'm guessing you were really shocked because you had had 2 wonderful dates with him, and you had understood, you know, the morning after the first date that you would be monogamous. That was what you had crafted an agreement about. and you really thought that now you were in a committed relationship with him, and so you must have been just so shocked and so upset that he was not yet able to give you that kind of commitment. Did I understand? And so we went through that for a while. But finally I said, I'm guessing that you've had an issue in the past where men have cheated on you and they haven't shown you the respect and the monogamy that you expected. Is that right? She said yes. And then I went about and I gave her a training on you don't get monogamy by having sex with a guy who's not your boyfriend, and the next minute, the next morning, announcing to him, now we're in a committed relationship, you're monogamous with me, right? I mean, it doesn't work that way. You know, it doesn't work that way. And of course, one of two things is going to happen. The guy's going to come to his senses in a day or so and said, which is what happens, like, oh, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Oh, I wasn't thinking. Or he's going to cheat on her. And tragically, she wasn't a client. She just happened to show up for 1 or 2 workshops. And she then became engaged to somebody else. And you, of course, know what the finish is, right? He cheated on her. Because she was going about it backwards. You get to know somebody. You find out that this is the person for you. You find out if they agree and they also think you're the person for them. And if you don't sleep together, you don't sleep together. That's up to you. But you don't then legislate monogamy. You don't say, crack the whip, because it doesn't work out.
Oh, thank you. That's really something for people to get straight. Too much pressure. It could have worked out. Yeah,
I wish it worked, but if it worked, we'd all be doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
and not to make light of it, she was obviously in a lot of pain, but she was going about it backwards. So please don't do that.
Thank you. Now, I'm curious, what are the, let's say, true causes of the deception that usually does accompany infidelity?
It's really interesting. When somebody lies to you, they actually care about what you think. Think about it, right? If somebody does not care about your opinion at all, they'll tell you the truth. Do I look fat in this dress? And if you don't care about them at all, and they're going to, you'll tell them the truth. Ma'am, yeah, you look really fat in that dress. Or honey, does this dress make me look old? And if you don't care, you've already packed, you already have your other girlfriend on the other side of the street. Yeah, honey, it makes you look old. If you don't care what people think, you'll tell them the truth all the time because you have nothing to lose. So if a husband or a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a child tells you something that's not the truth, it's simply because A, they care about your opinion, but B, here's where you have some power. You have not trained them to tell you the truth. You have not confirmed for them that it's safe for them to tell you the truth. And you have to train them to do that because we come from a culture that says, lie to me, because if you don't lie to me, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to take away this privilege and that privilege. So be very, very careful. You've got to train people, your family most of all, if you really want to get the truth out of them. But if they lie to you, it's because they actually care about you and your feelings.
Thank you. I like that thought process very well. All right. Well, so anybody I've ever lied to, it was for your best interest.
That's right.
Now, moving forward, what is the process that, let's say that when you teach a spouse to transform from playing the field with multiple partners to being ready and excited for a lifetime of commitment?
So let's imagine you're in this marriage and you're not sure if you want to leave it, and your spouse has cheated on you, or even if you've cheated on your spouse, and now you're really looking at whether you can have joyous monogamy for the rest of your life. I will tell you that it's a question of missing intimacy. It is not a question of wanting more sex. In all of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people I've worked with, and believe me, monogamy is the number one issue, right? In marriages that are on the rocks, monogamy is the number one issue in America today, and even in countries in Europe and in Asia where I've also had clients. So when you transform the intimacy between two people, which is what I do because I train them to be able to really listen with their heart and really be able to speak from their heart, and I train them with new language, new vocabulary, new verbiage. When they can generate that kind of intimacy with you, a deep level of intimacy that I call the tantric lock, they don't need to go elsewhere. Now, even if somebody is a sex addict, which is the extreme example of this, even when I've worked with sex addicts, if they're willing to learn how to generate a deep level of intimacy, and there's another step in addiction because I have to send them to somebody so we can see what's happening with their neurotransmitters and their adrenals and all that, so they have to be able to be emotionally stabilized, because addiction always has that component. But once they've been able to be emotionally stabilized, boom, they're able to be intimate and they're able to do monogamy if they choose to. They may not choose to do it in the marriage they're in. They may discover when they understand what intimacy looks like and feels like that they aren't going to insist on moving out. But that's another part of this conversation.
Thank you, Susan. Boy, she can really make a joyful, committed relationship happen. I just appreciate your work so much. Now, if a couple...
It's too bad I didn't meet you when you were 20 and 30, right?
There you go.
And too bad I didn't know this when I was 20 or 30 either. So.
But you're a gift to others that are
right.
in that age group
That's right.
or do want to transform.
Absolutely.
So there we
Absolutely.
go. A blessing in disguise, girl. Now, if a couple actually rediscover the joy of monogamy, what is possible for them?
The life that most little girls dream of, Cinderella, and it's difficult, but eventually she meets the prince, and then we don't know in the Cinderella story what happily ever after is going to look like, do we? We assume that, she's going to have a life of balls and his parents are going to love her and all this other stuff. But if you have a true partner, someone who's got your back all the time, this, of course, is the joy and the bliss and the ecstasy and the peace and the safety and the fun that everybody looks for. So if you can create this kind of intimacy with yourself and with others, then you can truly generate this in your life, and it can last forever.
Thank you, Susan. That sounds delightful. When a couple has generated the tantric lock, do they automatically enter stage 3, co-creation?
Yes, because once you're so intimate and so joyous and so bonded and so cooperative and all that, then naturally that's what you're going to do. It helps if I can teach you the language. I mean, it's hard if you don't have really compassionate language. It's hard if you don't have the 6-part conversation skills. It's harder. But, it's not about always learning how to do it. A lot of people are naturally compassionate. And when they're naturally compassionate, they naturally defer to one another. It's like an ebb and a flow.
Thank you. And that's what we want.
Yes, exactly.
So is the tantric lock destroyed when one or both partners try to exert pressure on the other?
Well, it has a certain amount of flexibility, but it's not a rubber band. So, if people are living in this joyous, intimate, peaceful, emotional state, which is kind of like the honeymoon phase, and you're now at a place where you've been able to expand that and generate it, for years, you don't want somebody, doing something, loud and argumentative and fighting and drama and all that. You're not going to leave him or her if they do it once. But if they do it on a regular basis, then that's not the tantric lock. Then you're back to, the other kind of relationship where there's coercion and drama. So yeah, you have to be careful. I mean, if you really treasure this relationship, you know, you're going to be protecting it from all that kind of nonsense.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of self-responsibility,
Yeah.
self-control too.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now we're going to go into a clip. I can see our time's right there. And this is going to be something wonderful with Reverend Bernard Goodman, speaking of mother.
Marty, another Celtic queen. Oh, you're a queen, Celtic queen. That's why you have red hair. I'm sorry, I'm surprised you two don't know each other. Maybe you should keep in contact with each other and ride horses or something. Anyway, you're a Celtic queen. We didn't ever tell you this, did we? No, of course not. The reason you are the way you are in this lifetime is you are exactly that. The way you act, your attitude, the thing you do with URI, the thing that we saw you do with that woman's thing, running all over the place, taking charge of everybody's life. You know what the word balabust is? Balabust. It's a Jewish word, which means the woman who's in charge of everything, you know, the strong one. My mother was like that. That's where you are. I would say you are the, interesting you married to Bob. You are married to Bob, right? Yeah, good.
Last I knew.
Good. You're probably the head of the whole family there, which includes Sandy and Roger and the kids. You probably run the whole household. Do you do that? It's all right to say yes.
Yes.
Of course. It's your job. It's your job. It's who you are. Listen, he puts out fires. You make them, you know. So it's a good team. Yeah, yeah. So we are honoring you as the Celtic Queen today, because when you leave here today, you're going to have that energy inside of you. And it's going to start pushing you to do things you've never done before. Very strong things, very mental things, very powerful things, things that create love more strongly than ever before in your life. Things that lead people to the fountain of love. They're going to say youth, but they're saying love. And they're going to drink from that fountain or that Kool-Aid or whatever you want to call it from that movie. I don't understand it, but so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating pools of love through which people can jump in and partake in whatever form they may be. I don't know if you, I don't think bathtubs will be involved, but what do I know? You're going to have, this will be like a movie, you're going to have the ability to touch something and turn it into a pool of love. Moses, what is it? Moses did wine. Wine into water, you're going to do love. Right, that was Moses, right? Touched the thing and became, then the sea opened up for him and he swam. Okay, so you're going to be able to do that. Pools of love, these are their words. And you're going to do that in a way that will surprise you. Well, to say the least, will surprise you. And how are you going to do that will really amaze you. And where you're going to do that, you'll never believe. But you will do it, and the result will be people who are there will feel more love than they've ever felt. What's going to happen is by these pools of love, you will open, I'm freezing right now, which means this, you will open the heart chakras. And this love will just pour out of them, and they'll be going around hugging everybody and kissing everybody, and they don't know anybody, it doesn't make a difference. Just incredible things will happen, and this is going to be your forte. Before you move to the beach. By the time you move to the beach, you will have such a large following, they'll probably follow you to the beach. You're going to leave a trail, interesting. Instead of a trail of dead people, you're going to leave a trail of live people. Well, actually, the word they're using is of love people. And just like a comet, behind you will be all these people filled with love that didn't have that before you came into their lives. And some are going to follow you to the West Coast. Oh, not it being funny. We can't even tell you what's going to happen in your house when you start doing this, especially with the kids. Oh, forget the kids. You know, you can't fool kids. They're going to be climbing the ceilings with this. Jasmine is going to do all of her credible stuff. Nicholas is going to start growing all kinds of new things.
Okay, what is Jasmine going to do?
All kinds of good stuff. And Nicholas is going to start doing incredible things. She has these two incredible children that are all indigo children. What?
Grandchildren.
The grandchildren? You sure?
Well, I have two incredible children, but
Right.
who are you talking about?
Okay. So that's going to be fun watching them react. Is your mother here?
Yeah.
Good.
Just getting smudged.
Good. So it's going to, your whole house is going to change. The energy in your house is going to completely change when you start doing this. So when stuff starts coming out of you, none of which you're in charge of course. You're going to be wearing a lot of red. And we don't mean just your hair. You're going to be wearing a lot of red. And if you don't have any, get spray paint or something. But you're going to be wearing a lot of red. Because you're going to become part of the Red Dragon Society. Now, the Red Dragon Society in China, the real Red Dragon Society, not like the movie nonsense, in China was devoted to giving love. In China, yeah, in China. Well, I guess they did that. I don't know if they had this, but there were a lot of concubines involved with that. I thought that was only Japanese, but I guess that in China too. A lot of these geisha-looking women, even though it's China, so I don't know what they're called in China.
Concubines.
There are concubines. In China?
Sing-song girls. The sing-song girls.
Well, if not all I'm saying, but okay. They're going to come, what they're doing, what I'm seeing is that they come and treat the men to peace and love. They actually bring it with them into the room, whatever the room. And men would come to, it's like a brothel, but it's not a brothel of sex, it's a brothel of love. They would come to these places, I don't know what they were called. Called centers of love. Oh, of course, yes. And they would go in there, and these were all kinds of rich men and wealthy men and of all kinds of ages. And they would go there to be treated, to be healed, to be nourished, to be loved. And it's nothing to do with sex. They would get massages, they would get ceremonial things, they would have love energy. You have these little pools that actually heal the body. And some of them are mud, some of them are different ingredients. And they did that for them. So the men would go there and receive love, receive healing, refresh and regenerate their souls. I mean, this is all spiritual stuff. And then when they would leave there 1,000 times more than the way they were when they went in. And this is what they had until things happened when they didn't have it anymore. So this is the energy that you have. And this is the energy that JP has. And both of you are going to be doing this, not together, not at the same time necessarily, not at the same place, but both of you are going to be carrying that into the world. When you land on the beach, you're going to heal the entire beach. The entire sand is going to be healed in front of your house and even to the sides of the house. And when people walk on that sand, they will get it from the bottom up, uploading from the sand, and they will actually get healed. They may not know it, but they'll just feel better. They'll always want to come back to the same area because it will feel so good to them, even without knowing why. You'll actually get to see the results of that. You'll see it in the face and stuff like that. So this is one of the things you're going to carry with you onto the sand, to the beach. And you're going to revolutionize the world. I'm sorry, people. All you're going to revolutionize the world. We can't change that.
We love Reverend Bernard Goodman. He has so much love and knowledge to help us with. Thank you, Bernard. I have a lot of questions for Susan, and I'd really love to explore further now. Susan, I'm curious if you would be willing to describe how a couple, let's say, who has actually mastered unconditional love, communicates.
You know, we think of the extreme where one person can finish one another's sentences, you know? So that's like a dream, right? And that doesn't happen very often. But the key distinction, if you are in a relationship that you really treasure, and I don't care what it is, it could be your parent, it could be your child, it could be your sister or your brother, it could even be your boss, it could be your assistant, or it could be your partner, your lover. You really care about them, right? That's the common denominator. So I don't have to teach you that you have to calm yourself before you speak. You know that. I don't have to teach you that you have to consider their needs before you start talking about your own so that they can really hear you. You know that. You're doing that. The only people who really need to learn the 6-part, that I invented years and years ago are people who don't know how to have a deeply intimate, joyous, loving, committed relationship. So it's for those of you, like me, where we didn't have those skills. We didn't see it growing up, and we didn't know how to do it. So this, the 6-part conversation just makes it really easy. The bottom line is, if you really care about somebody, you're going to care about every word that comes out of your mouth. Not because you're walking on eggs. Not because you're afraid somebody is going to be horrible to you. I don't mean that. I mean just out of pure love. You want their life to be more wonderful. To quote Marshall Rosenberg, who is the creator of nonviolent communication. You want to make life more wonderful for them.
Thank you. And what a gift that is. So regardless, we'd like to live that way, to be giving and loving. Okay, well, now to move on, are there times when we simply cannot motivate and inspire people to see things our way?
Yeah, I mean, if you're dealing with somebody who was brought up in a religion that's different from yours, and that person was raised to believe that, Allah or Christ or Moses or Krishna is the only game in town, then it may be very, very difficult for you to convince that person that your religion is better. But I can't imagine why you would need to do that anyway. But, there's certain things that you have to just allow people to be Republicans or Democrats if that's what they want to do. But if you're in a deeply loving relationship, you can communicate with them in such a way that they can agree that taking a vacation to Paris this year might be more interesting than taking a vacation in Hawaii this year. That kind of stuff where you're not offering them something horrible, you're offering something that is equal and different, right? But not something that they have perhaps been raised to have a prejudice against. Now, you can ultimately train anybody, motivate anybody, teach anybody if you have enough time. Because I certainly do. What I can teach someone if I work with them for 12 sessions is nothing compared to what I can teach somebody if I work with them for 48 sessions or 60 sessions or whatever, And so it's a question of how committed are you to that relationship? Do you have a hair trigger temper where you think they're either going to get it fast or I'm out of here, or gosh, he or she is so wonderful and this friendship is so terrific, I'm going to stick and I'm going to see what I can do.
Oh, I love that attitude. Thanks for sticking with me over the years, Susan.
And right back at you, vice versa. That's what friendship looks like, by the way, even though that's not the topic of our show.
Well put. If one partner gets stuck on wanting cooperation from the other, is there a way to accomplish this without pushing?
Yeah, because pushing doesn't work. So the reason that you have to find a way to accomplish it without pushing is because pushing doesn't work. You understand that? Resistance causes persistence. You've seen this if you have children. The greatest, fastest way to learn that resistance causes persistence is by having a child. Or even spending a long period of time with somebody else's child. Because, children have a gigantic need for autonomy. Teenagers have an even more gigantic need for autonomy. And you'd be amazed, or maybe not so amazed, that we adults, no matter how old we get, we do too. So don't push because it doesn't work. motivate, inspire.
How very peaceful. I love that approach. Thank you, Susan. When one partner has a habit of nagging, is there a way for the other spouse to hear this and remain peaceful?
Well, you're not going to remain peaceful, but you're going to be able to recreate peace, recreate peace, recreate peace. You know, let's say it's something simple. You know, you want to go to a Chinese restaurant, your husband wants to go to an Italian restaurant. You know, and you go to Italian restaurants all the time. Let's say you're Italian, that would make it logical, right? But you just tonight, you're in the mood for Chinese food. So your job then is to motivate and inspire your husband to decide that yes, he would enjoy having a meal at a Chinese restaurant, right? And if he keeps telling you why he wants to go to the Italian restaurant, it is it's tempting to go crazy and to just fight with him and just say, you know, just once in your life you should do something for me, you know, that kind of thing. But it won't work because then you could end up with a big fight. Instead, can you remind him about the last time you went to a Chinese restaurant and whatever the dish was that he loved, or how happy you were the last time and how happy you made him, sexually or otherwise, about how much you appreciate the fact that sometimes he is willing to just do something because it means a lot to you, and how much you love that quality about him. So in other words, keep focusing on the positives, and if you do that, there's a high probability that you're going to be having Chinese food tonight. It works.
Thank you, Susan. I love that approach. Now, I know that you've told me that sometimes during your divorce mediation process, or even after a divorce, your clients have suddenly realized what they were losing, let's say, and all the lessons have kicked in for a peaceful, loving relationship. Can you explain this?
Yeah, you know, I've worked with people who weren't able to understand what this marriage could be while they were in it. When I mediated their divorce, I already could see that this was a marriage that was about 65% terrific. And if either one of them was willing to learn a couple of things that worked, then the relationship could easily become 85% terrific just in a couple of days and a couple of hours. So if I'm mediating it, that's easy. You know, I can, guide them and lead them. But if I'm not mediating it and I've just been brought in as a marriage coach or a divorce coach for one client or even both of them, one case, they actually got divorced. The woman was so insistent that she wanted to divorce this guy. She met somebody else. She wanted to be with this new guy. She didn't want to just be separated. She wanted a divorce. She did, and then she ended up realizing she'd made a terrible mistake and quickly motivated her husband back into her life, and they're very happy now.
A happy ending, even
But
going
what
through
a lot
that.
of suffering to get there. What
Yes.
an unnecessary amount of suffering,
Well, hopefully they're embracing more than ever.
Yes. Oh, sure. I mean, she just realized that she had, what can I say? A midlife crisis.
That's nicely put, Susan.
Yes. Nice euphemism. Comes in handy.
Well, I know that in the past you have explained how to transform a good marriage into a great one. Now, when does the decision to divorce really become clear?
I can hear it in people's voices when they talk about their partner and there's no magic in their voice. I can hear it. I can hear it at the same time. I can hear it when somebody talks wistfully about their partner. As if she wishes or he wishes that there could have been a shift. Because I know that if they are wishing that there could be a shift, I can show them how to get it, So if somebody's voice is just, this is what she does, and I've just had enough of it, and to tell you the truth, I can't remember why I married her in the first place. We were never really happy. She kind of sold me a bill of goods, that kind of thing. Or, I really loved him, He was such a great guy when I met him, but he's been drinking excessively for 10 years. There's nothing, that's going to stop him. I've begged him and I've pleaded with him and I've motivated and all that, and he just has no interest. And I just realized that the marriage doesn't really matter to him. The addiction means a lot more to him than marriage. So, sometimes you just hear it and it's just, there's a deadness to the voice. And so there's no point. Might as well. So then the trick is, and we'll cover that in the second and the third part of the series, how do you get a really peaceful relationship with someone that you're going to divorce? Because you need that in order to save your money and save yourself from heartache and save your children and your families.
Thank you for touching on this as well. The inevitable, but peacefully.
Yeah, because if you have children, that person is in your life forever, and forever is a very long time. It feels like an even longer time, right?
With the wrong person.
It's horrible. Horrible.
Oh. Now, if we really have learned unconditional love and learned to just really enjoy truly monogamy and the tantric lock, what happens if we divorce?
And luckily we have a few minutes for this. If you are getting a divorce and you have not yet learned the 6-part conversation and how to calm yourself before speaking, how to really compassionately connect with your partner, how to express yourself in an emotionally neutral or positive way, motivating and inspiring people. If you don't know part 4 and 5, reflection and clarification, how to create an understanding with the other person, and if finally you don't know how to come up with solutions and generate it, then you know that the divorce is not going to be pretty. Because if you know how to do this, then you're doing most of the work that mediators like me would have to do. Now, if you don't know how to do this, you're not ready for your next marriage, which is why I created a pro-dating program. So if I don't teach you how to do this while you're married, if I don't teach you how to do this while you're getting a divorce, or if I'm not helping you through the divorce, then I can teach you how to do this in the pro-dating program. You can learn how to communicate with new people this way, practice on new people, and then you're able to generate a really loving and intimate relationship with somebody new.
Thank you. So it can work, it's so exciting, and you have these skills and can make it so easy for people.
Amen.
Thank you, Susan, for leading us through part 1 of our, 3-part series, Marriage or Divorce. And I'm really excited. I know you're going to be back in a couple of weeks, and we will be reflecting on the part 2. So this is a 3-part series that can just have anybody involved in a more joyous life and relationship, starting with yourself. I love that. Thank you, dear.
So welcome.
Now, I'd like to just share with everybody that you would, I'm sure, enjoy Susan Allan's column in our Ask the Love and Relationship Coach. This is in our Santa Barbara Family Life magazine. It's now available, of course, online, sbfamilylife.com. I really enjoy getting this every month and reading what you have to say for some enticing, spicy questions. Now, to contact Susan, Allan.org is the way to get through to her. That free 1 complimentary hour over the phone, 805-695-8405. And now for here, we would just like to let you know that we're live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for 1 full hour, and several times, surprising times as well throughout the week. We are now in our 9th year, and we certainly appreciate hearing how so many of our viewers enjoy our show. I haven't heard anything but that, and thank you. So if you do have some questions, challenges, concerns, You can contact us, ggmore@cox.net, or another phone call, 805-698-8233. We do have a website, compassionateconnection.tv. Next week, our guest will be Linda Davey. And now I'd just like to say thank you, how we appreciate show sponsors, Dr. Mark Dreblow, thank you. And here in our studio, Matt, Mark, so many of you that have helped us through the years coordinate, thank you so much. And right here, our TV team, our director, Fred Winter, couldn't do the show without him, and Tyler Geck on technical support. They're both genius in our control room as I'm speaking. And once again, Susan, thank you for tonight. So wonderful of you to share with us. For our viewers, please have a compassionate week. Good evening.
Make me, mold me, shape me, shift me to all that I can be, that I may express your endless compassion. Oh, it's where I wanna be. Compassion when broken hearts bleed. Yeah. Sweet compassion when my soul's in need. I find compassion for friends and enemies. My own compassion is where my spirit breathes. Oh, compassion when broken hearts bleed. Oh, sweet, 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 sweet compassion when my soul's in need. I find compassion for